Hello everyone, back again with game 4 of the 1935 World Chess Championship between Alexander Alekhine and Max Euwe, who was the challenger at the time. In this game, Max Euwe has the white pieces and Alekhine the black pieces. Alekhine has just won the third game and now leads 2 games to 1. And the game started off as a repeat of game 2, where Alekhine played the Grunfeld, and after queen b3, we had this Russian defense variation. Uh, D takes c4, queen takes c4, and now Alekhine had found an improvement, and he played bishop g7. In game 2, he played bishop e6, and the game continued queen b5, knight c6, knight f3, and he played this move rook b8. I had said that bishop d7 is probably better here, um, but nevertheless, the game was pretty interesting. Some back and forth. He had his chances, but well, with good play, White was probably better out of the opening. And this was basically start of our middle game position where White had a nice advantage, wound up playing f4 here, and wind up winning the game. Now here, Alekhine just simply relaxed and played bishop g7. Euwe played bishop f4, challenging the c pawn, and now c6, rook d1, and now queen a5, bishop d2, and now Alekhine played b5. Now here, bishop e6 is also an interesting move. I don't see anything wrong with that. But he played b5, queen b3, b4. So Alekhine's very ambitious move. And as I discussed in that game, this type of opening where specifically the Russian variation in the Grunfeld, where White's queen comes out early. Black usually tries to play very active and dynamic. So you can see that, Black is burning his bridges somewhat, compromising his pawn structure, leaving some weak squares. But he hopes and argues to compensate for that with his piece activity. That's what you see going on here. So knight a4. So the knight is kind of misplaced somewhat on the rim, but the pawn is attacked on b4. Therefore, knight a6, e3. There's bishop e6 now, queen c2, castle. So you can see that black has a fantastic lead in development. And now what's on the menu should be moves like c5, busting open the position as soon as possible while the while the white king is in the middle of the board. Here, Euwe plays b3, and he just basically needs to consolidate, develop. He wants to play bishop d3, knight f3, castle, get his king, out of there. Interesting continuation is bishop takes a6, queen takes a6, and b takes b4, being greedy. Rook fb8 is possible. But knight d5 might be even stronger as it unlocks the potential this bishop here. But this bishop's hanging, so let's say bishop c3, bishop f5, and this is just a sample of what I'm talking about unleashing the activity of the pieces. Queen b3, and let's say rook here, knight c5, rook takes, and you can see after this big trade of pieces, that black is doing very well in this position. You got the two bishops here, and this is pretty much forced. You have the two bishops here, and that as the position opens up, it's going to favor that dynamic in the position. Alright, so I just wanted to show you that variation to give you some ideas of the style that black is playing in. So again, he doesn't want any part of the fight right now because he needs to catch up in development itself. So this is why he plays an understandable move like b3. He'll work on these weak pawns later, but he has to get his king safe and get some pieces in the game first. All right. So let's just say if he could, white would love to play, knight f3, and let's say after rook fc8, knight e5, right, gain a quick tempo, queen takes a6, and knight takes c5, queen d6, castle, and you see, white has exactly what he wants. a5, f3, and he eliminates the counterplay. He has his pieces out, and he's just up a pawn. Black has some compensation, but nevertheless, black doesn't have enough compensation, and that's kind of what white would like, right? Just to have that pawn, just gradually improve his position, hold on to a center, trade off a few pieces here and there, and then go into a winning endgame. This is in the mind of both players. Rook a b8. So Alekhine here is just kind of setting his defenses up against this attack on b4 because the tactic is always there at some point of bishop takes a6, queen takes, followed by bishop here. Alright, so he plays rook a b8. Alright. Now bishop d3. Again, if black had an extra move, perhaps he would just play bishop f5 here. Again, a bishop takes, queen d3, and then a move like c5. Right, just starting to open up the position. So bishop d3 is played here, rook fc8, ready for c5, knight e2, Euwe is trying to get that king to safety, and c5. If he plays castle here, then c takes d4. So you see how it's like the time and everything in chess. Right, he wants to castle, but he can't right now. So he has to deal with this. So he plays bishop takes a6 first. Queen takes, and that's his idea. So it keeps the queen sheltered, and now he figures, hey, I can castle. So queen b5 is played. Now one source has queen a5, but queen b5 is in most sources. Now knight f4 is played with this double attack on this the bishop there. Again, notice how the knight is hanging, so he can't castle. So you can see how these moves are, right? Every move Alekhine has a purpose, and Euwe is counter-attacking, desperately trying to defend. So this is why he plays knight f4. So he gets the knight out of there, but now the queen is blocking the diagonal, so he still can't castle. Of course, he doesn't want to trade pieces, and he doesn't want to have a knight on e6, of course. Right? If white could, he would capture twice on e6. So again, another example, if white could move again, right? Because Alekhine played bishop g4. If white could move again, he would just capture here, and then after f takes e6, right? You can see how damaged the black pawn structure is. Now, of course, he would love to take there, but he can't because of the rook on c8. So play would continue. For example, rook c1, knight d7, attacking this knight. Queen c4, right? Offering the exchange of queens as well as threatening the capture here. And then black play knight takes c5, d takes c5, and rook c6, protecting here. And then castle, bishop b2, rook c2. And what I want you to notice is that black now has no lead in development or any kind of initiative whatsoever. However, white has a better pawn structure, so he has the static advantage of pawn structure, and he's ahead in material. So what does that translate to in layman's terms? White is just up a pawn. Black has no compensation at this point. Play can continue. Bishop c3. This is a nice trick. Bishop takes c3, queen takes c4, b takes c4, but it just leads to massive simplification. And again, white is just simply better here. Right after, say, like rook f c1, for example. Still, he's just up a pawn. Black, would need a miracle to draw this, right? Being a pawn down and having such a miserable pawn structure. Okay. So this is what white has in mind. Alekhine plays bishop g4, so he gets out of that. This provokes the move f3, but again, remember black's theme, right? Because you have to play when you play in certain openings. You have to remember the theme. There's like a theme, right? Of course, tactics are gonna dictate everything, but there's like a general theme and concept that you should be following. And this concept here is that, hey, white has fallen behind in development early, bringing his queen out in order to establish the dominant center of d4 and e4. That's what white wants, and he was willing to bring his queen out early to do so. It's black's job to argue that, hey, that's not a good strategy, and to keep the pressure on white so that, one, he cannot establish that center, and if he does, it's at a detriment positionally to him, or he loses material or something like that. So this is what Alekhine's trying to do. So after f3, he doesn't just move the bishop back, say bishop d7 or something like that. This would be just good for white. It's like rook c1 or something like that, followed by e4. Right, so let's say rook c1, a5, e4, and white has exactly what he wants. He has full pawn center, and he has nothing to worry about. Okay. Soon bishop e3 will be played, and followed by, like, say, moves like queen e2. So after f3, Alekhine knows he has to keep it going, no matter what. So he plays e5. Again, remember, white can't castle. So e5, knight f d3. Right, so he gets out of the way. He's keeping the position closed, and he's still threatening Alekhine's bishop. All right. Alekhine says, you know what, I'm not even going to move that bishop, and he takes d4. F takes d4. D takes e3. So he gives up the piece. Bishop takes e3. And knight g4. Again, king still in the middle of the board. Bishop f3. Bishop c3 check. Rook d2. And powerful stuff by Alekhine here. Rook takes c5. Knight takes c5. Queen takes c5. Again, he still can't castle. Gives up the rook. Bishop takes b8. Queen e7. Notice this rook on d2 is pinned. This rook is out of the game. So both rooks are out of the game, and the bishop is off in the corner somewhere. And the queen is really useless in this position. King D1. Okay, King F1 is not an option um, because of knight E3 also, but leads to quicker demise. So notice that either move by the king leads to a fork. This is the lesser of two evils. So at this point, Black's initiative has overcome his static weaknesses. All right, I just want to go back at this point because at this point we can say that Black has a definite advantage. But this position has too many nuances just to go over quickly like that. So after e takes d4, Alekhine actually had even a stronger move here, bishop f5. And this reminds me of ideas that you see in the Slav defense with these with bishop b4 variations, whereby e4 is played. You have this exact same pawn structure, and black will sacrifice the piece on e4 for 3 pawns. You sacrifice the knight for 3 pawns. This reminds me of those positions. Knight takes e4. Um, Remember, this knight can't really take because the queen will get captured. So that means the pawn has to take. And you see how black has 2 pawns for the for it. Now, the difference in this variation is he can castle. White can castle. However, he gets the piece. He gets the piece back. So he gets 2 pawns and a piece. So black is winning in this variation also. He plays bishop d3. Notice again, he can't take with the knight. So he has to take with the queen. All right, and you say, well, wait a minute. He's taking the queen. Knight's protecting the queen. Not so fast. Rook takes c5, and now what's protecting the queen? Nothing. Black gets the piece back and more. Queen takes b5 is forced. Rook c takes b5. D takes, bishop takes. Okay, so now the pieces are even, but white is up. I'm sorry, the pieces are even, but black is up a pawn now. And it's white that doesn't have compensation for the pawn. Okay, so I'm sure Alekhine saw this line too with bishop f5, but maybe he didn't want white to be able to castle. Right? Or maybe he felt that this particular position, maybe he won't be able to win this one with this 3 pawns to 2 on the same side. Right? Very interesting. Although he would be able to apply pressure on this a2 pawn. So instead, he played e takes d4 here and gave up the bishop. Now, very, very deep concept by Alekhine. So after f takes g4, d takes, bishop takes, knight takes g4, bishop f4. He just manages to keep a white king in the center. And like these are just powerful moves. Rook takes, knight takes, queen takes. Bishop takes b8. Knight e3, and this is where we were before. So this variation definitely convincing. King c1. There goes the queen. Rook takes c2, and he just plays h5. Rook to d1. Bishop g7. Basically, Alekhine's just consolidating now. He has the game in hand. He has the extra pawn, but white has no queen. h3, a5. Bishop f4. Queen to e4. Bishop c7. Queen e3 check. King to b1. a4. This breaks open the shelter that black has set up. And b3. A takes, queen takes b3. King c7. And again, now you can see the dark squares opening up. Another pin. Takes the pawn. And now bishop e5. King to h7. So of course, Black, has to be mindful, right? Of course, he's defending against this himself, but he also wants to play this move and ruin, try to ruin Black's day here. Now, the reason why I say that is because say after if White could move again, right? He play Rook C8, Bishop F8, only legitimate defense. Rook D8, and again, I mean, you put this on the engine. Can Black um, make a draw here with perpetual checks? I don't know. Um, I mean, he could check a lot because the king is open, but it seems like eventually the king is gonna get to safety, right? And again, this is definitely not what you're looking for, uh, after playing that well with Black. So this is why Alekhine played this move King H7 just to avoid the nonsense. And also, like, there's a possibility that he might have been in some type of time pressure and just wanted to make sure that he didn't, fall into any traps because um, after Bishop E5, he played King H7. He could have just played Bishop takes B2 here. King takes D2 and then move like F5 and not even have to worry about any kind of mating situation period. So, but who knows what type of time pressure he was in, etc., etc. So Queen takes A4, Bishop E5, and then Bishop H7. So Bishop C3 and Queen B5 is played. Bishop D4, Queen E2, exploiting the pin. G4, Queen E1 check. King B2, so now the king is forced away. Bishop takes D2 and Rook C8, and nice ending by Alekhine. Bishop C1. Can you see that? See why that ends the game right there for Euwe? Why Euwe had to resign with the white pieces. You pause your computer, your laptop, whatever, if you wanted to try to figure it out. But after Bishop C1 check, Rook takes C1, then Queen D2, and after Rook C2, then just Queen takes D4. Another variation is same thing though, Queen B4, and just picking up the knight. So that's why Euwe had to resign. If King, I don't know, King B3, right, trying to keep the charade going, then Queen E6 is pretty stiff, right, just dropping material, right. So after Queen D1, I'm sorry, Queen D6, only reasonable move here is Rook C4. Then you just grab this pawn right here, and then you can just do that. And again, doesn't really matter um, what White has. Bishop C4, you can just check again, or you can play that. You can basically do whatever you want. You're gonna win the game eventually. Um, and Euwe knew that, and he gave it up. So that wraps it up for Game 4 of the 1935 World Chess Championship. So I know some of you saying, "Man, how in the world did Alekhine lose that?" Right after 4 games, he's up 3-1. Right, and he crushed Max Euwe. Like he's looking like the superior player. Right. So again, I know some of you out there with the alcohol theory that he was just getting drunk and things like that. But some things happen. And we're gonna continue the fight. And these were long matches, 30 game matches. Um, and there's a lot of stamina, a lot of So um, there's a lot of factors that contributed. I'm sure drinking was probably has something to do with it, not as much, but um, it could have just been, again, just the fact that Alekhine was 43 years old and was 9 years older than Max Irva at the time. So the stamina, right, the mental fatigue could set in, all type of stuff. Like I said, I always think of Karpov, Kasparov, um, 1984. Karpov was about 9 years older than Kasparov, and he's up. What was it, 5-1? He only needs to win one more game, and I'm sorry, he was up 5-0 at one point. He needed to win one more game, and he never won another game. And they wound up canceling the match, et cetera, et cetera. So things happen. So again, that is game four. That's the conclusion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Um, Please like, subscribe to my channel. Check the links below. The DVDs are related to the Grunfeld below. And again, it's important to hit those buttons, the like buttons, subscribe buttons, because they do boost the video in the algorithm of YouTube. If you're enjoying this content, just please consider donating to my channel. Could really, use the support. I would appreciate it. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the next installment in this World Championship match.